Number one. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Tremendous show, tremendous success.
All right, everyone, thank you all for coming out here to Staten Island. I am here with a legend, the one and only Curtis Sliwa. No need for a background introduction. Everybody knows, founder of Guardian Angels. Now he's giving up a successful radio career for mayor. Now, Curtis, obviously you could make an influence in politics just doing what you're doing. What made you decide to go and run for mayor?
Well, first off, thanks for having me here, Mark, because I've been going round the clock, Upper East Side earlier today. I was with the great Vito Bruno, unfortunately, who lost for state senator in Brooklyn the last round on 3rd Avenue in Bay Ridge earlier today, and then along Highland Boulevard campaigning 24/7, 365. But I sat on the sidelines as many other candidates got involved, both on the Democratic side and Republican side, and I hadn't seen any man or woman running for mayor accentuate refunding the police, hiring more police, and giving them the opportunity to do the jobs that we paid them to do so that they could go back out and make for safe streets and safe subways and safe parks again. So I said, look, this is my history, 42 years. This is what I've done since 1979. And then I decided to jump in on the Republican primary. So on June 22nd, the voters who are registered Republicans will have two choices, Curtis Sliwa or Fernando Mateo. Since I'm ahead in the polls, I hope it stays that way. And then it may be Sliwa versus Yang. And wouldn't you love that? Sliwa.
Definitely.
Real New Yorker versus Yang, the guy who's a Fugazi, a wannabe New Yorker. I mean, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I didn't see any mayor candidates that I liked either, and then I saw you threw your beret in the ring, and I said, you know what, I don't feel like losing in a primary to Curtis Sliwa. Let me just run for city council instead. But I do have a lot of questions for you.
Sure.
Staten Island, famous bar, Max Public House, got shut down. These lockdowns are destroying small businesses all over the place. You have for rent signs, for sale signs all over all 5 boroughs. What are you going to do as far as, I mean, if I'm a business owner or a potential business owner, why would I want to even rent that property with the risk of the government controlling whether or not I can make money?
Well, we have a real opportunity. I'm running side by side with John Tobacco, who's running to become the next controller of the city of New York. He's got to win a Republican primary first, and he was right in the middle of the whole effect of Max rebelling against Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo. Can I give my daily shout out to Andrew that I did on the radio for years? Andrew, ascendere tu si provienos facim. And like your father Mario, you are. Oh, I feel so much better now. And obviously, the big boot of Bill de Blasio on the back of the necks of mom and pop shop owners, men and women who've lost everything during the pandemic, and just trying to breathe a little bit and open up and be able to take care of their patrons. And immediately the sheriff's department, which, by the way, is not your typical law enforcement agency. It's an agency of patronage. That's how the sheriff's department came about. And then both de Blasio and Cuomo sending in the sheriffs to padlock facilities, not just Max, but if you notice, a whole bunch of facilities all over the city. You would think now that the pandemic is slowly unraveling so we can get back to normal, they would forget and forgive all the fees and fines and the trauma that they caused these folks in padlocking them down and taking away their state liquor authority licenses.
Speaking of trauma, we're not just talking about adults that are suffering. Kids, social distancing, not being able to play with each other, being forced to wear masks and social distance in school, even though they're very low risk. The teachers union is very powerful. They're for the most part, for all of this. Kids, you know, they'll drop their mask on the floor, put it right back on their face. They don't know any better.
That's true.
They could be getting sick from things like that. What is your thoughts on these mask mandates for kids, possible mandatory vaccinations for a non-FDA approved vaccine for kids to go back in school, and everything else as far as reopening our schools?
Well, you brought that up, Mark. The real mayor of the city of New York Well, actually, it's Mrs. de Blasio, Charlene. But the deputy mayor is Michael Mulgrew of the UFT because he has dictated when the teachers would go to school, when they won't go to school. And he's held all of us, the taxpayers, by the short hairs, and the mothers and fathers and others who are in charge of the children as to when they can actually get back into school and have in-school training. I've got 3 sons. So my oldest son is here, Anthony. He occasionally is able to go to school. Then I got a middle son, Carter. He's in junior high school. Then I have Hunter. He's in elementary school. All 3 of them public schools. And they've sat at home, and most of the times they've played Roadblock and Fortnite. And that's not getting an education. They're going to have to be redshirted. So we have to basically give Michael Mulgrew, who lives here on Staten Island, a bris, because he's the shot caller here, and he's got to be exposed to kryptonite because he can't be dictating what happens in the school system of New York. He's a union leader. I understand that. I'll respect the union. But they can't determine when the school's open and when the school's closed and when the kids can come to school and can't. And they're wearing a mask. The children are the safest of all of our age categories. I'm more in danger. I'm 67. I've had every kind of precondition. Can I mention them in a second, Mike? The precondition. Shot 5 times on the orders of John Gotti Sr. to John Gotti Jr. by the Gambino crime family. Whoosh. Thank you, God, I'm alive. I've had prostate cancer, stage 4. I've had colitis, ileitis, chronic Crohn's disease. I should be the one that's forced to stay inside or wear a mask or, basically go nowhere. Don't do that to the children. The children are the least vulnerable in terms of getting the coronavirus or spreading the coronavirus. And now, let's face it, we're seeing that coronavirus may no longer be the problem that has impaired our entire society. Never mind, crushed New York City because of the dictates, executive orders of Cuomo and de Blasio.
Okay, and we see another problem with New York City, the rise in homelessness. I know in Bay Ridge, 86th Street, not only are the businesses going out of business like Century 21, but when I was campaigning last year, I was out till 2, 3 in the morning putting up signs all over the neighborhood the night before election night, doing my last little push. I counted, I think, 5 people just on a 2-block radius on 86th Street. I never thought I'd see that happening in South Brooklyn. You see that in Manhattan all the time, but South Brooklyn, it's affecting everybody. Any ideas as far as fixing the homeless problem?
Well, Mark, you're running in an area that encompasses Coney Island right into that area, correct?
Well, it doesn't cover Bay Ridge, but it does cover parts of South Brooklyn. Bay Ridge is where I'm from. That's where I ran last year in State Assembly. Sure. So it's not in my district now, but it's still a concern because it's happening all over all 5 boroughs.
If you look at pockets, let's say across the street from Nathan's Famous, the last stop, Coney Island, Stillwell, you'll see about 18 to 20, mostly men, some women. Most people won't have a conversation with them because they looked a little deranged. People are uncomfortable. I know most of these people because I talk to them all the time. Out of those 18 to 20 people, a third of them are not even from New York City. And I asked him, I said, why are you here in New York City? You're not from this area of Brooklyn. He says, look, I'm in New Jersey, I'm in Pennsylvania. They don't have the right to shelter. They don't give you Medicaid. They don't give you 3 squares, a hot, 3 hots and a cot. In New York City, by federal edict of a judge, if you declare yourself to be indigent, without means to be able to provide yourself with shelter or medical help, the city is liable federally to make sure that you have a place to stay, make sure you get 3 squares a day, and make sure you're enrolled in Medicaid. So we have a tremendous number of men and women, some who come with severe problems, being addicted to alcohol, obviously to drugs, or severe emotional problems, who flock here. And although you may not want to live that life, it's a hell of a lot better if you had to live then, let's say, in Camden or Patterson or Newark, New Jersey, where you don't have the right to shelter. So we have, in addition to our own homeless situation, a lot of people who've migrated here, and that's unfair. We have to be able to say to them, no, you're not from New York City. You're not going to be entitled to the $2 billion that we now spend in a growing budget that's now $99 billion on homeless people.
A lot of that is putting them in hotels and, putting hotels in the Upper West Side and all over the place, which a lot of the local neighborhoods aren't exactly happy about them, being in those areas as well.
Well, I'll give you an example, Mark. You saw the big problem in the Upper West Side. They, overnight, but mostly single, able-bodied, homeless men. They took them out of the shelters under the guise that, COVID-19 was spreading. Put them in the Lucerne Hotel, the Bentecourt, 2 other hotels. No transparency. And then finally, it was adjudicated in court. And the judge's decision was, hey, look, we got to get these single able-bodied men out of the Lucerne on 72nd off Amsterdam. So guess what? We're going to transport them to the Marriott on Wall Street at taxpayers' expense. Now, that's an upgrade, right? Yeah. 5-star, top shelf. Do you know that the men were more than happy to go down there because now they'd have their own room instead of having to share a room with some guy who was snoring or shooting up or causing all kinds of havoc. And 3 men were solicited by legal aid to act as if they would be traumatized and emotionally scarred if they were forced to leave. And now it's hung up in court again. The problem is going to be when all of a sudden the pandemic is over and we're approaching that, how are you going to get these single able-bodied men back to the shelters? Because legal aid is going to go into court, claim they have tenants' rights. You're going to go to tenant-landlord court. Anyone who owns any kind of property and does rentals, commercial or private, knows what mishigash, what craziness is in that court. We're going to be stuck with these homeless people in these hotels for a long time, and it's going to have to be pushed. A guy like de Blasio or the ones on the Democratic side who are going to take his place, they're not going to move to get these men or women back into a shelter. And when they're in the shelter, they need services for their alcohol addiction, for their drug addiction, and for their emotional problems that they can't overcome on their own. And we're not doing that. We just shove shelters in neighborhoods. I mean, here in Staten Island, 4 alone on the North Shore. 4 alone. One is, I'll call it a supermax because it's 500 women and children in one facility. There's no one who can run a shelter with 500 people, even if they were well behaved and they didn't come with some emotional issues. That's a tough shelter to run. And why are they forcing it down on Bay Street and Victory Boulevard in Staten Island? That's so unfair.
Definitely agree with you on that. Now, one other thing is we need unity within the Republican Party. It's tough enough as it is for Republicans to get any airtime. The mainstream media makes it seem like we have no chance in hell. So if you don't win the primary for Mateo, I think you might very well win. But if you don't, will you go behind Mateo and push for him to win for mayor?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, all the Democrats, they want to defund the police even more. They want to impair the police even more. If you remember, I was at the Lone Star just last week for Brian Fox, and you were there, Definitely. As was Marty Golden, the former state senator, and I took the microphone. Liam was very kind to give me the microphone with Vito Bruno there, and I gave a speech about unity. We've all got to come together, whatever our differences. So when June 22nd is over, and we're not going to have ranked choice voting because it's only me and Fernando Mateo, we'll know quickly who wins. If I happen to lose, of course I'm going to back Fernando Mateo. He's better than any of the Democrats running. No matter what we say in the many debates that are coming up back and forth to differentiate ourselves, all these Democrats, all they want to do is weaken our police and create an atmosphere where we may actually think, when all is said and done, if a Democrat gets elected, whether it's Yang or Adams or any of the others, hey, we got de Blasio too. And a lot of people listening right now have one foot out the door. They're already in Florida. Florida makes love to them at night when they're sleeping on their pillow because they're thinking of leaving our beloved city. And part of my mission is improve, don't move. Improve. First thing we're going to do, hopefully you're on board, Mark, anybody who earns $75,000 or less, 65 or more senior citizen, owns a house, no property tax. That might induce them to stay a little longer until we can recover the city. And if I'm mayor, that's going to happen quickly as we bring safety, peace, and tranquility to the streets and the subways, the parks, and the schools.
Definitely. If people don't feel safe, their first thing in mind is they want to get out of town. And with all the other restrictions and quality of life, a lot of people are looking to move to Florida. I know a lot of people personally that already made that move. 2 last questions, and then whatever closing statements you might have. The mandatory vaccines is something that's going to be pushed, vaccine passports, things of that nature. In the debate against Mateo, I noticed you said you were against vaccine passports. What about that whole concept of mandatory, whether it's in school or for work, or how do you feel about with that mandatory?
No, I'm opposed to that. Look, we're going to have herd immunity. Fauci has done the rope-a-dope. He's been all over the map from day one, where he said we had nothing to worry about, and then he wanted us to wear 2 diapers on our face. Remember? Nope. 2 diapers. Look, you come into the world, you're born with a diaper, and unfortunately, if you go out, you may have 2 diapers on your face. This is crazy. But no.
And a glass covering or plastic covering on top of it.
Right. Look, I've been vaccinated. Most people are going to get vaccinated. The government is finally getting the vaccines out to the people who need it most. But if somebody says no, in America, no means no. It's individual choice and freedom. And please, no vaccine passport. I mean, everything is going to be fine. We're moving in the right direction.
You said you're vaccinated. So if the vaccine...
1 shot. I get another one May 19th.
If your vaccine works and I don't get vaccinated, what are you worried about what I do with my life?
I have no worries, as you see. Look, I was getting screamed at for not wearing masks early on in the pandemic when we were taking care of the homeless and the emotionally disturbed in Penn Station and on the subways. Because, the secular and religious nonprofits who do great jobs, they abandoned ship. They were so terrified. I and the guardian angels, we were not terrified. But I remember I'm bathing an emotionally disturbed person, washing them with alcohol so that they didn't get coronavirus. People are passing by and say, "Where's your face mask? Where's your face?" I'm like, really? It's Mother Teresa. Did Mother Teresa and her nuns, did they wear face masks? Did they have gloves on? No, they were doing God's work. So relax. Everybody, take a chill pill. Everything will be fine.
Now, one of the nonpartisan ideas that I think will be very popular with your campaign, you're a cat owner, animal lover, you believe in no-kill shelters. Could you tell us, a lot of stray animals out there, a lot of animals in shelters now, what's your plans to actually have the space and implement a no-kill shelter policy?
Well, Mark, I believe if you're going to run for office, whatever the office, it's do as I say and do as I do. I live in a 320 square foot apartment in the Upper West Side with my wife Nancy, 1 turlet, and we have 15 rescue cats. Had my wife Nancy not rescued them from the nearby shelter, they would have been euthanized within 72 hours. Most New Yorkers who pay millions of dollars in taxes to animal care, which they get very little of, and control, which they do a lot of, euthanizing, don't realize after 72 hours, if they're not claimed, if nobody adopts them, they get euthanized. Dead. And yet Los Angeles has no-kill shelters, Austin, other cities. So as soon as I become mayor, issue number 1 is there will be no-kill shelters. There are plenty of men and women in our society who would be more than happy to adopt the cats and the dogs. And I can just say the only problem you have if you go too overboard like I and my wife is, you might get a double hernia from changing all the litter 3 times a day. But I tell you what, imagine if I'm in Gracie Mansion. I keep cats indoors and I have dogs in the yard and it becomes an animal sanctuary.
They'll be living good.
And we have an animal welfare line that's dedicated to that because not everyone's going to vote for a Republican, and we have an independent line because we know some people would never in their life vote for a Republican, but they might vote for you if you're independent in the general election or if you love cats and dogs. Where Trumpers love cats and dogs, Biden people love cats and dogs, independents love cats and dogs. Kind of hard to find people who don't like cats and dogs.
Yeah, I don't. People who don't like animals, I don't know, something different about them.
Well, notice if you don't care for animals, then you don't care for humans. Look at what we do with the homeless. Look at what we do with the emotionally disturbed. And Thrive is an article in the Post today. When I get elected mayor, you, de Blasio, Charlene, I'm coming for you, coming to indict you. Where's the $1.25 billion that they stole from the taxpayers? Have they taken care of the emotionally disturbed? No. Coming for you, indictment. Yes, you'll be locked up, even though your Democrats would never subpoena your records. I, as mayor, will subpoena your records, and we'll want to know which country has the money. Is it Switzerland? Is it Panama? Where have you offshored this money? Because none of it's been spent on the emotionally disturbed who are in desperate need of this help.
Well, hopefully myself and you will both be in office next year and we can start making some changes to save New York City. Any closing statements that you have out there to the voters?
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Speed cameras, right? We got to get rid of these speed cameras.
Speed bumps save lives, speed cameras don't. That's how I felt.
You notice how they have apps now? Slow down, speed camera, 400 feet. They're everywhere. And they're meant to do one thing: rip off the taxpayers. It's a hidden fee, a hidden fine, a hidden tax. Jersey got rid of its speed cameras, they call them red light cameras, because they couldn't prove in court that they were being done for the safety of motorists and pedestrians. So they may be needed around schools. I'll give you that. Because when I was a kid, I'd go running out right out of PS 114, Bill to see junior high school. You know, it was like craziness after school. But all these other places that they have them, no, we're taking them down. We tax our city residents enough from the cradle to the grave. We're getting rid of most of those speed cameras and red light cameras. Definitely. I mean, I think we can join in solidarity on that. Staten Island, it's a horror. They're more per square inch, per square mile than anywhere else in the other 5 boroughs, and all throughout South Brooklyn, too.
It looks like they want to take money from the Republican neighborhoods, it seems. But anything else you want to add?
No, it's just that we have to refund the police. We have to hire more police. We have to let them go back, take back the streets, the subways, the parks, the schools, and most importantly, we have to make them heroes again, because right when the pandemic came, remember, they were essential workers. We all applauded them at 7 o'clock at night. And then George Floyd was killed in the streets of South Minneapolis by one Minneapolis police officer. And all of a sudden, our NYPD became zeros. Well, when Curtis Sliwa is elected mayor, first thing, they become heroes again. I start by visiting the precinct in Tottenville, work the other 2 precincts in Staten Island, all the way to the first precinct in Chinatown. Shake every man and woman in a blue uniform and let them know, I got your back. But if you cross the line, because you used to give me wooden shampoos and concrete facials and have me suck concrete in the first 13 years of the Guardian Angels, then you'll have me as your worst nightmare. So I've seen it from both ways. I've been locked up. I've been vilified as a Hell's Angel, a vigilante, and now I couldn't have a better working relationship along with all the Guardian Angels with the NYPD. So I've been able to see it both ways.
Definitely. I just came from speaking for the NYPD at a local community event, and the public makes it seem like these guys are John Wick and they could shoot a moving target in the leg. And, sometimes it's a split-second decision. It's, a tragedy that happens. And it's also, there's cops, there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's people, bad apples in every profession. And we can't judge the entire profession based on the actions of very few, especially ones that aren't even in the same state. So I back the blue 100%. I know you do. I know most Republican candidates do. And if you're not backing the blue, then, we're going to see crime go up as it's been going up with the Defund the Police movement. That's a major platform with most Republicans. And I know you're on board, and I appreciate you coming on board here. Now, everyone who would like to be in the shot, I know everyone was scattered around, but if you'd like to be in the shot here, Kathy, we got some of the signs there we're going to take a photo.
Well, let me make mention, you mentioned unity. It's unity beyond just Republicans. We will be unified after June 22nd. But we've got to get moderate Democrats that are the majority and independents together with us, because the real battle, Mark, is against the justice warriors, the Democrat Socialists of America, led by AOC, all-out crazy Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They are enemies of America. They want socialism/communism. They want to impair our police, and they want to make all landlords not receive rent, even when people are able to pay rent again. They want to single-handedly destroy our city, and we have to, in solidarity, moderate Democrats, independents, Republicans, conservatives, stand in their way and defy them.
Definitely. Everyone, if you want to gather behind here.
And let me say another fine word for the other mayoral candidate who doesn't get his due attention and recognition, a fine stand-up guy, Bill Pepitone, former police officer, running. I know you're on the conservative line.
Yep.
He's on the conservative line. That's a stand-up guy.
Another stand-up guy is Danny, the owner of Max Public House. Danny, any words that you want to say about these lockdowns and how you've been screwed?
I think everybody feels the same way that I do at this point on the lockdowns, that, we trusted the science, we did everything, we were safe. At this point, we know lockdowns don't work. We need new leadership in this city and the state, and that's why we're here doing this. Great guys like Curtis and Mark. We need some change in leadership in this city and the state, and this is how it happens. Again, what's happened to businesses and people of this city and state, it's terrible. And we do need change, and it has to happen now. Time's up. And hopefully we can make this happen, and the best way to do it is together. And when these elections happen, make sure you're doing it wisely, make sure you're paying attention to what's going on. And now is the time that things have to change. We need to open back up. We need to get these businesses open, these empty storefronts. We need to bring businesses back here. There's an exodus out of this city specifically, and we need to make sure that people stop leaving and have a reason not to leave, and it starts here.
And Mark, can I say one thing? One guy who's not here now can do that to fellow Staten Island. He's been with you every step of the way. John Tobacco.
Yes.
John Tobacco for city controller. He stood with you. He did not surrender. He did not retreat. He did not fold like a cheap camera. So remember that. Primary date, John Tobacco. Wouldn't it be great if he gets into the general debate and can defend the actions that he helped with you to defend, as you defended all small businessmen and businesswomen all over the 5 boroughs of the city of New York?
Yeah, absolutely. John has been there every step of the way. So John Tobacco, I had the pleasure of meeting just with these lockdowns, and one of the greatest men that I've ever met in my entire life. And he's been there every step of the way, defended us, and wants to defend this city and what it really means to be a New Yorker. So he's in some troubles right now trying to get on that ballot, but as soon as he gets on, again, it's someone that you really want to pay attention to, and again, that's how we make some change.
That's for sure.
I definitely want to thank every single one of you that came out here. Thank you everyone at home for joining us, and we will see you next time on Final Takes.
Tremendous show, tremendous success.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Szuszkiewicz, and I'm running for New York City Council in the 47th District in South Brooklyn, New York. I ran for New York State Assembly last year in South Brooklyn. I'm a native Brooklynite, and the reason why I got into politics in the first place are these are unusual times, and I want to help my community bounce back from these troubled times. And I don't trust the way politicians are handling the situation, but I trust myself to do the right thing. And that's why I decided to come in and fight back. I am unanimously endorsed by every county committee member of both the Brooklyn Republican and Conservative parties, but my ideas are nonpartisan. Some of these ideas include improving our education system with life skills classes, an after-school video game program, funding affordable housing with property-backed municipal bonds instead of giving developers 15-year tax abatements for only a few units of affordable housing, improving NYCHA conditions, as well as giving long-term NYCHA residents the opportunity to rent to own, helping the homeless with job training and rehabilitation centers, as well as many other ideas that I go in depth on my website, mark4nyc.com. Unlike other politicians that just complain about problems and have no idea how to solve them, I actually offer real solutions, and I go into detail on my website, mark4nyc.com. There you can find out more about myself and my ideas, as well as hopefully donate to the campaign. So I hope that you visit my website, mark4nyc.com. If you live in the district, I hope that you vote for me. But even if you don't, I hope that you support me so that I can help make Brooklyn and New York a better place to live for all of us. Thank you.